Hello and welcome to Amplification. I'm here to help you amplify your life through natural means and through getting in touch with your natural divinity. So, here we go. I want to share with you the power of raw food through an experience that I had when I first got into raw foods. And I just want to allow you to see something possible for yourself. I know sometimes when we see like the way that something affected somebody else, it can sort of be detrimental if we aren't really careful about how we intake it, right? So we don't want to go with, oh, that's definitely going to happen for me. I just want to activate, I want to amplify that voice within you that says something big is possible for me. Because for that, I know it's true. And if you're on this path and if you're watching videos on raw foods, maybe you've already experienced something big, but maybe you could be even experience something even greater. Who knows? If you just tap into the possibilities that are there in your natural being. So I'm going to sort of condense this story for you. Basically, about 10 years ago was the first time that I found out, well, it was the first time that I exposed myself to raw foods. Actually, when I was growing up, there were times where my mom, she had a dehydrator and she would find out about like the pineapple diet. And so she was very like health foodie. Um so I was exposed to it, but I was really resistant to it. I was like, "Mom, this tastes like dirt." You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, she likes anything that tastes like, dirt." And that's how I would speak about my mom. And come to find out at 18, 19 years old, came back to I found out about a raw diet, but through the ways of the 80-10-10, through the ways of like Doug Graham and his book. And I found this through Freely the Banana Girl, which is funny because, I was looking up things on YouTube. I think about vegetarianism because I started being a vegetarian again. Um, and anyway, so cut to this point where I ended up going to Austria when I was in college because I had a full ride, and so I was able to go there just as cheap as I was able to stay in the US. Looking back in hindsight, I kind of wish I hadn't gone to Austria. I'd gone somewhere like tropical or just somewhere totally different, especially because I was starting this raw food journey and I was going to be heading off to Austria. And anyways, so I was supposed to be studying when I was in Austria and all these things, but really I was going to raw foods, and I was also in a lot of isolation at the time. I just um sort of ended this relationship, and it there was a lot with that relationship that was just like, when I was in Austria, there was a lot of like just feelings of isolation and not really wanting to go out and be around people. I didn't have that like, oh, I'm ready to go thing, but I did have raw foods. And so what I ended up doing was I went there, and one of my first nights there, or really it was like a week in to being there before school had even started, before school was even in session, right? And it was my first day of like, I ended up doing all raw, but then I didn't have anything left. Like there was no more food for me at the end of the night because I would stay hungry. Like I wasn't really able to get like fully satiated at first on raw foods. It felt like unless I like kept eating, right? And what happened and even just mentally, like I just didn't feel fully like I was done eating. So what happened was this one night I had eaten all of the food that I had in my little, not townhouse, but like apartment thing that I shared with three other people, right? And it was late enough, especially there where in Austria where I was, nothing was open. So if I wanted food, I wasn't going to be able to even get it, even if I went to a bar, I don't think like food, like it just, I wasn't able to like get anything or grocery store. There wasn't a 24-hour convenience store or anything like that. So I was done for, right? I didn't have anything to eat, and that was it. And I just felt so hungry because I hadn't eaten too much, right? But what happened was I laid down in bed because I was like, well, I guess I'll just go to bed then, right? And for the first time in so long in my life, I'm like really not able to sleep. Or I want to say it was just different, this way of not sleeping, because I was just like sitting up. I was like, dude, I feel like I can't sleep because I'm hungry, I felt like hungry. But I was just sitting there long enough, and I was literally kind of tossing and turning. I was trying to get comfortable. I just couldn't. There was something in me that was like writhing. It just I couldn't get comfortable. That was the first time I was like really tossing and turning a long time, literally. And what ended up happening is I'm laying on my back and I feel something bubble up from inside my stomach. Literally like bubble up and travel up my body. Like it felt like this bubble just traveled up my body and like released. And when it did this release, I had this vision and I had a memory flashback. It was a memory of when I won't go into the memory, it's really personal, but not just to myself but to other people, so I wouldn't share that here. But what I will say about it is that it was a memory that of I still don't know the exact age that I was, but I was around 3, 4, definitely under 5. Definitely under 5. I know that for sure because I was living in a different place than I was after I was 5. So it was around 3 or 4 years old, and it was like very, very clear. The memory was like it was like being there again, right? I totally relived it. And I had never had this happen before in my life. So up until this point, I was just convinced that like I had just a terrible memory, that I just can't remember things anymore. When I was young, I had a better memory, and then I just kind of I got to the point where I couldn't even remember sometimes like what happened 2 days ago. Like I couldn't keep things straight. And anyways, so I had this totally full-blown memory experience. And also, mind you, at this point in my life, I could not really visualize things. Like people would say visualize, and I couldn't really visualize things. Now I can. I've trained myself back into it, and I totally have that opening. But at this point in my life, it was like darkness. Like I couldn't see things in my mind, really. I was just in this like constant sort of fight or flight is what I've realized. Very, very panicky, very anxiety stricken, very always trying to calculate situations and make them go in my favor. And I was just very sort of maniacal, not in like but yeah, pretty bad. Like I was pretty manipulative, or just really like I would say maniacal. My mind was very detrimental. So anyways, what I wanted to share about this was like that experience of raw food and was incredible. And yeah, it wasn't the food because remember, I was pretty hungry, but I had eaten raw foods all day. So my body was clean enough and I'd been eating raw foods even if I had something cooked or whatever, or a little thing here or there, it was predominantly raw foods for a while, and then giving my body that total break, or it not having something in its digestive way, was what allowed that to occur. So I'm sharing right here, like, yes, it's the power of raw foods, and there's also the power of raw foods when you are able to pair raw food eating with intention, consciousness, and be deliberate. What is your intention for eating raw? And that's something I've been coming back to a lot today, because so I've been eating raw for about 40 days now, and it's incredible, and I don't have any desire to go back. And it's awesome. And the one thing I will say is that I've noticed that being raw, excuse me, does not mean your food addiction goes away, or does not mean your food desire for food as just comfort goes away. So that's a process. But what I will say is that although I've noticed that like I can still overeat on raw foods because I love them, like my banana smoothies are so delicious to me, I can overeat them sometimes. What I will say is that it at least digests really quickly, and you feel like you have the chance to like restart. And also, the more that I eat these nourishing foods, the more that dissipates and the more control over my actions and my being I have, so I can make a new decision the next day. I feel way more capable of actually clarifying my desires, my intentions, and my wants, and making a new choice. So that's what I would say is like, I'm just trusting the raw foods, and I think you can too, is that I can trust, or what I'm doing is like trusting in this raw potential, and from that initial experience with raw foods, that really powerful experience with raw foods through raw foods, I truly have had this connection and understanding of the power of allowing for the body to just be, to allowing for the body to reconnect with it, you know. So I just wanted to share that and spark some life into your life, you know what I mean. And yeah, thank you for being here. If you've been listening, all the best to you, and I'm so excited to continue making videos and sharing wisdom and knowledge, and also just being a part of the community, you know, and giving something here in this space for you to feel supported, for you to feel seen and supported on your journey. And that's how you amplify, is by being in your own frequency and getting so comfortable, getting so clear and clean in that you just can really start to take away the clouds and the smoke around you and your aura and just allow for that frequency to amplify. So that's the journey I'm on, and I am just here to share that with y'all. So thank you so much, and blessings to you. Many blessings to you, like many, many pots of gold in your life.